together as we initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only wakes us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Napoleon another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All about the Betty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Betty Express. In a beautiful
Howdy, howdy, guys. We are, well, the judge is there. I have seen his head. Um, I haven't seen anything on Twitter, the Twitterverse that says maybe uh what if the defense actually got their timeline. I am not quite sure. I guess we're going to be finding out here shortly. Now, the jury is not supposed to be in until 1 p.m. Their time. Uh, and we still have to go through, what parts uh, and how the walk the dog letter is going to be presented to the jury. So I think we still have some more legal wrangling to do. Now, I will be shocked beyond shockification if the defense has actually cobbled together coherent arguments uh, to include or make sure he is going to try to get home as he can. I know that he's gotten some pretty heavy things he's gotten to do or had to do at work, but he is going to try to be here today. But even if he has to come in the afternoon, the jury won't be here until after lunch. So we should be doing relatively okay. Now, it will be interesting to see, since I haven't seen the walk the dog letter, how much it impacts me. Um, because I can kind of give us kind of an insight on what the jury's going to think about it. I really do feel like the state has given us everything except the smoking gun and, a bunch of evidence that Kouri is the worst person on the face of the planet. But maybe through this next witness, we're going to, I don't know, hopefully figure out what the tweezers were. Wherefore, if you remember, there was a pair of tweezers and a little piece of plastic that was removed from the home, I think 3 weeks before the trial started. It was in a jacket pocket. Now, as far as I'm aware, and good morning, Malin. Good morning, Miss Mo from sunny Sweden. Let's see if she's found guilty, what's the minimum or maximum? Let me check that because I did look that up. Now, I think that sentencing would wait, as far as I'm aware, until, she's been tried in the other case. I think they will generally hold sentencing because if she gets a high enough sentencing rate on this trial, I don't know that they'll go ahead on the future trial. Yeah. So it looks like for the aggravated murder, the most serious charge, the Utah sentence is 25 years to life in prison in non-capital cases. Now, the prosecutors are not seeking the death penalty, so it's not a capital case. So she would get life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years is the maximum she could get to for that. Now, for the attempted murder, the first-degree felony is about 5 years for the alleged poisoning around Valentine's Day. And then the drug-related charges, those are 1 to 15 years in prison, and the forgery and financial crimes are 1 to 15 years and 0 to 5 years. There also could be any number of ways that the judge can, score these out and do either concurrent or consecutive sentencing depending on what he feels at the, sentencing stage. So, she is looking at a forever amount of time, basically, when all of these are stacked together, and if she does poorly in her financial crime, while she might be eligible for parole in theory based on, the law, will she actually get parole is a totally different question, and I do feel like I don't know that she would get parole with as infamous as her crimes are. I mean, in theory, Susan Smith, who took out her 2 little boys in the car, is eligible for parole, but will she probably get it? Diane Downs is eligible for parole, but will she get it? I don't think so. So, now it seems like the judge has really clawed back that possible big error, in the case of potentially letting the, transcripts go back to the jury. Um, Looking at reactions from actual factual lawyers, apparently there was a lot of disagreement with that particular ruling that he was possibly going to allow these transcripts, whether it be the transcripts that the state cherry picked or the transcripts that, the defense wanted all of
This is
them.
231-500-139, State of Utah versus Kouri Richins. Counsel for the state or present.
Oh, dear
Counsel
God.
for defense.
Miss Nestor, what in the name of sofas done dead is that? It looks like you slaughtered a lazy boy from my mom's house. Like, what in the velour is ugh. And Corey, again with the stripes. I don't know who I shouldn't have to tell you this, but generally, black and white stripes of any kind when you're the defendant in a red rum trial is a bad idea.
Are present, as is defendant Kouri Richins. Let me just provide a summary of how we got from yesterday to today. At the close of proceedings yesterday, we had a plan to receive defendant's written response to state's motion to admit redacted exhibits 8-57R through 8-63R as prior consistent statements under Rule of Evidence 801 D1B. After everybody left the courthouse and upon reflection, the court did some additional research regarding the foundational requirements of 801 D1B, issued a ruling requesting additional foundation for admission of those redacted exhibits under that rule. That's docket 1700-1700. And shortly after that, had a WebEx conference on the record with counsel to discuss the court's concerns regarding the foundation requirements for that rule. Following that, the state narrowed its request to seek, as I understand it, Mr. Bloodworth, publishing, not admission, of portions of only 2 of the proffered exhibits. That would be 5-58R and 8-62R under Rule 106. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. After that,
J.R. Wright, the novelist, I actually feel really bad about my mic because a while back we didn't realize that somehow the power we lost a line of power to our house, but not enough to cut entire power to our house. It doesn't quite make sense to me, but it was shorting my mics, so I could never figure out what was going on. So finally, after like hysterically crying, which is generally um my my response to any technology not working. Mr. Mo and I were at Walmart looking for a cord, and he's like, "Look, it's on sale. Let's just get a whole brand new mic." And I swear to goodness, I feel so bad because the day we bought the mic is the day that we called an electrician because I guess it had gotten so bad it was like flickering with the light. And the electrician came out and he's like, "No, you need to call the power company. You lost a neutral." So it is a super duper cool mic, but I realized that all of the other mics that I cycled through were probably still okay. It was the power. But I do like that it's got all the colors. I need to figure out how to set it up because there's like a fancy dancy you can dial yourself in with gain and other audio magic.
Counsel, to their credit, engaged in a productive email exchange regarding their positions, regarding those redactions. I think we need to discuss those one at a time now. Is that your view, Mr. Bloodworth?
It is, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. It would help me to just go through these one at a time and talk about what's happening here. So let's start with Exhibit 5-58R, which is the transcript of a May 2nd, 2023 interview of Carmen Lauber. And we begin, as I understand it, I'm going off the 8-58R. Did I misspeak? My apologies. 8-58R. Thank you for the clarification. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right email here. I'm not. My apologies. I need to print the state's response. One moment.
Your Honor, it's probably the 8:05
Now,
p.m.
someone in chat said yesterday that Recovery Addict has a oh gosh, I've got something in my eyeball, which is of course bothering me, but I have no idea what it is, and it's not an eyelash because I already tried to take those out. And I have natural eyelashes. I did try those fake eyelashes once. Jamie makes them look beautiful. It felt like I had spiders on my eyes. She looks beautiful in them. I just kept pulling them off because I kept seeing spider legs. Yeah, normally I'm a fan of Paisley, but yeah, no. But RA, or Recovery Addict, had someone in the jury room or in the gallery, and I'm wondering, someone said about black and white, but I think that was another day. You will have to excuse me. There are storm fronts that are moving through all day today, so if I'm a little more squirrely, I do apologize.
Yes, that's right.
Ooh, yeah. Décolletage.
So, forgive me, Mr. Bloodworth, in response to the state's highlights in and around page 75, like 1921, the defendant states, quote, "This completely resolves this proffered section, leaving nothing for the court to decide." But then the state, I think, sees it a little differently. Help me understand here.
Yes, Your Honor. The highlighted, I think for the purpose of this discussion, the highlights are immaterial. The highlights related to the 801 discussion.
Okay.
So in the 805 email last night, the state set forth its view by page and line number of.
Well, as the queen of maybe not practicing the safest of relations, I can't say things happen. Kids are never, I'm of the opinion that kids are meant to be here, and sometimes the plans of, God, the universe, or the spaghetti monster, whatever you subscribe to, are not yours. So, yeah, having had several surprise blessings in my life. I'm not one to judge. That is the one thing I don't judge Kouri on. Because as a person who can like trip and fall pregnant, I try not to judge at least for that.
The 106 argument.
Okay, so the state's position is that page 65, line 4 through page 87, line 13 from this should be published under Rule 106.
That's correct. And that section of that statement, that section of the transcript applies to both the first and second paragraphs. It encompasses both of the statements both of defense's statements that are outlined in paragraphs 1 and 2 of the 805 email.
Understood. And so to the extent when we look at 8-58R, to the extent that between page 65, line 4 and page 87, line 13, there are some sections that are not currently highlighted. Is the state's position that those are included in the state's request?
Yes, Sean, I think for purpose of this discussion.
I will hold on to it. Okay. Let me rephrase that. In true lawyerly fashion, I will endeavor to hold on to any items sent to me to hold on to for Nick. The reality is my house is run by feral children and not feral cats. Actually, the cats are kind of tamer than the children, but they both like to knock things over. So it wouldn't so much be a hostage thing as I would turn gray trying to keep whatever it was guarded from said feral children and cats. But I would gladly hold on to stuff for Nick.
We can ignore highlighting.
Okay, got it. Let me pause there. Ms. Lewis, take a moment. Take the time you need.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get how you can sleep next to someone one night and then the next night know you're giving him something that he's never going to wake up from. I don't understand that. And I'm glad it doesn't make sense to most of us. I would be more worried if people are like, I can follow that logic. Makes sense to me. I mean, or I'm glad that it's so irrational to us that we can't quite make the math equation work. Because if we could rationalize, then it'd be a scary world.
Will you restart that printer for me? Thank you.
I didn't realize we were ignoring the highlights until right now. So,
well, I think if it helps speed things along, as I understand it, the defendant didn't have any trouble with the highlighted portions. It's now the unhighlighted portions between 65 and 87 that we need to make sure you get an opportunity to respond to.
Actually, Your Honor, we had agreed to letting in all of the highlighted portion on page 75 and 76 because that would be what was related to the statement that I elicited on cross. So that's what we had agreed to, which is what we believed the state wanted, because like I said, it wasn't until Mr. Bloodworth just said we were now ignoring highlights. So we agreed to page 75, line 8, starting at line 8, through page 76, ending at line 5, under the rule of completeness, because that completed the discussion around the elicited statement, which is give us the details that will ensure Kouri gets convicted of murder. I think going all the way back And adding in everything does not have to do with that statement. It's a lot of discussion. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with O'Driscoll's statement that was elicited through Carmen. It's talking about, trying to look at the unhighlighted parts now. I mean, it is talking about that it's about she doesn't know the situation between Eric and Kouri, which wouldn't have anything to do with that. It's about when we're going to meet again. She says, I need to go through whatever I need to go through to figure out. I mean, this doesn't have anything to do with that statement by Detective O'Driscoll. I mean, I agree the stuff right before that and immediately after that that completes that line of question and answers should come in. But for example, on page 67, Detective Maynard says, I'm just saying we're going to need you to settle down and get details and timelines. I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with the statement. And it's also hearsay by Detective Maynard. I mean, I suppose if Mr. Bloodworth wants to question Detective O'Driscoll about some of these other statements, that would be appropriate, but I disagree that all of this comes in under the rule of completeness.
I think we need to be a little bit careful here. It's not Detective O'Driscoll's statements that are subject to the rule of completeness. It is Ms. Lauber's statements that are potentially subject to the rule of completeness. And as I understood the state's position, it was the context provided by Detective O'Driscoll's statement on page 75 combined with Ms. Lauber's response on page 82. And that was, as I understood, from back when Carmen Lauber testified in open court, what the state believed they needed to correct the arc of. Is that fairly stated, Mr. Bloodworth?
It is, Your Honor, and I can provide additional detail to the extent we need it.
If you would just make a record for why the state believes page 65, line 4 through page 87, line 13 is required to explain, qualify, or provide context for Ms. Lauber's testimony, I'd appreciate it.
Your Honor, the necessary context is that Carmen Lauber was agitated about her involvement in Eric Richins' death, and the detectives were trying to settle her down and focus her in on the details.
And I can very much see why the state wants to bring that in. It would show that Carmen is very much remorseful, feels very much that she needs to atone, is guilty, and it does lay out another motivation that, while it is still self-serving, just as much as the, I'll get my drug court thing kind of expunged. Aaron, well, a lot of it was because it took time to do the investigation, but also I'm guessing COVID had already had background or backups. I do know that Kouri had initially a defense that she was paying for, and then it did have to be, or the case had to be turned over to public defenders, Miss Nestor and Miss Lewis. So there were probably delays with that, but there were also some lengthy discussions and delays in motions in limine. The defense fought very hard to get items that the private investigator, Mr. Gableman, had kind of pointed out. Basically, the defense fought very hard to get any information or any evidence that Todd Gableman had found in his searches that were later, the state would write a search warrant and then go through and do a search. They fought very hard to keep all of that out. So there were a lot of legal wranglings before trial even commenced with some of the items that were found in the house, and then the walk the dog letter. So there have been a good amount of motions before this went even went to trial. So it's sort of a mixture of many things. I'm sure there was a backlog from the COOF. Then you had the kind of incredibly complex legal, positions the defense were putting out. The state would have to respond, and then the judge would have to adjudicate those. So I do think it's a mixture of a bunch of different things that kind of all culminated together to make it take a longer time. And objectively, for court, this is not a terribly lengthy wait. This is a fairly quick, move to trial. Now, I will say that the delay might also be because the state has simultaneously been building this particular trial, and then there is a separate trial with more financial, or basically all of Kouri's financial crimes, that the state has also been building. So that could have been some of the delay.
The court can see the word details in this portion of the transcript appears a dozen or so times as Carmen Lauber is scattered. They're focused. They're trying to just get her focused in on the details, and in the details, and explaining to her, right? Because the broader context here is they're talking about her immunity.
You're welcome,
And they're
Aaron.
explaining to her that details are necessary so that they can corroborate them, and that corroboration of those details is necessary for immunity. That is the context of the statement.
Ms. Lewis, go from there, please.
Sorry, just a moment.
And I will say that I think both Nick and I were shocked at our
Now, a
reaction to
mistake
Carmen.
that is the narrowly tailored context of the statement. The state, water under the bridge, but the state has argued the entire series of interviews provides that context as well.
That's been preserved.
It has. I appreciate that.
I hope that guy in the orange puffy jacket takes off his jacket, because that's going to distract me today. And I very much like that this judge is taking time to address all of these issues before this witness comes in. So, when the witness is on the stand, when the jury is supposed to be paying attention, there's not a lot of sidebars. I'm trying to figure out what's on the judge mug. Are those pickaxes? I think they're pickaxes. It might be a fire department thing. Maybe he's a volunteer
I
firefighter.
understand what they're saying. I don't disagree that all of that is necessary under the rule of completeness. So I would just stand by our objection that really what should come in is the complete statement on page 75.
Aaron, to be very honest with you, I will have to ask the chat. I kind of came into this trial. I wanted to be as unbiased as possible, so I didn't pay attention to a lot of the background or history of this case beyond the very bare bones. She's accused of poisoning her husband and she wrote the book. But I do believe that the book was self-published before prosecution, is what J.R. Wright, the novelist, said. It was before prosecution. Oh, it's a school logo. Okay, I did not know that. And hiya, Katie.
And 76. I will say, in looking at this though, I was already, when we were looking at it previously, just to highlight it.
I am in no way trying to be mean, but and take this with love and look, I love your curly hair, but what the hell is Rita Skeeter doing in the background? Now, I have been noticing this woman in the background of the court because I have ADHD and can't pay attention to what's going on around me. Um, she has the most lovely curly hair. She's always dressed kind of retro pinup, but she does deeply remind me of Rita Skeeter here because she keeps like moving her head to kind of see things and write things down. Good
I really
morning.
didn't have a problem with through line on page 82 through line 17 on page 82, because I actually do think some of that came in during cross. I'm not, probably like to take out the stuff between, well, no, that's kind of,
I'm not saying that anyone should make this into an American Gothic painting with grok, but I'm not saying that here's the perfect actually, it was a little back,
take out the stuff
but we could
between,
get perfect
well,
still. I give you American Gothic. Current time. Okay, and my pause game is always bad. I will say there was this really, really cute still that someone found with Katie leaning on, oh god, what's his name? Clint. Clint's shoulder, and it looks like, she's getting comfort from him. I thought that was really sweet and made her look so much softer than she's appeared, in the trial. If I can find the little still shot on X, I'll pull it up, but it really was a different view, and I'm glad that someone got that picture because I think this woman has been incredibly strong, incredibly stoic for so long, and I hope that regardless of whatever the outcome is of this trial, because I can't predict that, I hope she gets some measure of peace and comfort, because she's had to be so doggone strong and fight so long for her brother's memory that I hope she gets to enjoy her brother's memory after this.
no, that's okay, never mind. So I really don't have a problem with
I don't believe she's
Line
charged with
8.
writing the book.
starting with line 8 on 75 through line 17. Although, I'm sorry, Your Honor, this skips. I mean, we go from 76 to 82. So
No, with the state's request, and I can appreciate why. You just need a moment to walk through it. But sitting here this morning, the state's request under Rule 106 is to publish, among other portions, page 65, line 4 through page 87, line 13
all right,
of
so
this.
you also want, which you didn't include, 77 through. That's where you've lost me.
So there's a gap in what we're looking at, pages 77 through 82.
Is there?
Yes. But they've provided that they
Okay, but I thought that you guys were simply looking through what the state had already cobbled together, and there would be gaps because what the state is proposing to show was like an hour and a half versus the defense wanting 7 hours. Yeah, there are gonna be things skipped.
wanted jumped from page 76 to 82.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Bloodworth. I'm reading your email of 8:05 p.m. 65, line 4 through 87, 13 inclusive?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct. I think that the disconnect here is the pages we're looking at. or
Jump.
She's looking at jump, yeah.
Oh.
I love that Grok couldn't get the other person out, so they just decided it was American Gothic, the thruple. And then this is the other one. I don't know. I kind of feel bad because at least in the other one, they all looked miserable, but she looks more miserable in this one. I kind of feel bad for the sad sister wife. So I think the other one where they just all look miserable, well, she always looks more miserable. I don't know. I'm a terrible, terrible person, and this is why. Eh,
So now you want the pages you don't have to draw.
I did not appreciate that. I've got to see the other pages.
So do I.
Yeah, my apologies.
I think,
I'm redacted.
here's what we'll do. Page 65, line
I really
4.
dislike court TV
Page
and Von
87,
Crime
line
focusing on the
13.
families.
87?
And as a person who's gone through grief, but I think everyone can appreciate that if you J.R. Wright, the novelist, if you have 4 or 6 kids, how do you keep them from busting in during your streams? Well, they are all of the age where they are going to school. But if we have snow days or days off, you will usually hear youngest most feral, because he he's a pest. I love him to death, and I try to remind him, if you just don't annoy everyone to within an inch of losing your life, people would want to play with you. But he doesn't seem to do that. And since I'm his mom and I love him a whole bunch, he doesn't bother me as much as he bothers his other brothers and sisters. So youngest most feral is my, unaffiliated co-host during most days off or weekends.
Minus pages 77 through 81.
Okay. So now we're back to
We're
the
back.
proposed
This will take us
5-58
here
hours.
just in a more efficient way.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so Ms. Lewis, my apologies. Now I think we're all on the same page regarding the paper version of 5. I keep doing that 8-58R that we're looking at. Thank you for raising that. So just so the record is clear, we're currently contemplating page 65, line 4 through 7625, and then 82.1 through 87.13.
I would agree with 76, starting at line 8.
Oh, well, that's cool.
To the bottom, I'm sorry, 75, starting at line 8, to the bottom of 76. And I'm all right with page 82 through line 17, but we would object to the rest.
Okay, bear with me.
I don't know who the guy in the orange shirt. He reminds me of Rin Tin Tin, but I know Rin Tin Tin is blonde. Or a grown-up Caillou, which is odd.
All right, so the court is persuaded that the statements
yes.
of Carmen Lauber elicited on cross-examination, as indicated on proposed exhibit 8-58R on pages 75, line 19 through 22, 82 lines 8 through 11, and page 86, lines 17 through 19, require, under Rule of 106, context, qualification, and explanation in the form of additional portions of 8-58R. And those additional portions are page 65, line 4 through page 76, line 25, and page 82, line 1 through page 87.13.
Okay, not Rin Tin Tin.
Any clarification, Mr.
Who's the one from, I think it's a Dutch character? I don't remember. He was like he was I think a journalist? I don't remember. He wasn't older cartoons, I was more a fan of Babar. So,
Bloodworth.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lewis.
No. No.
So I think that handles bulleted
Tintin.
or numbered
There you go.
paragraphs 1 and 2 in the email exchange between counsel, correct, Mr. Bloodworth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That brings us to numbered paragraph number 3. Bear with me.
So I am not right now in a storm warning. Now we do have warnings because there are going to be really strong winds, but it looks like for the rest of the day we're looking at just rain. Now, with it being so unseasonably warm and the air being so moist, there is a possibility, a great possibility that as the day goes and, it warms up, that more storms will be coming through, but for now, we're just looking at rain and strong winds, and I'm used to that, so, I'm keeping an eye on it, but there's always the likelihood that in these current weather conditions, more storms can, cycle up, so hopefully, now in Indiana, the northern part near Chicago is where the tornadoes hit yesterday. I'm in, like, the most southern part of the middle or the most northern part of the southern part, so, like, central south area. Thank you. I did not a lot of work, but had a lot of laughs.
So here, to provide additional context, qualification, and explanation for Ms. Lauber's statement that I get that related to the get out of jail free card, Mr. Bloodworth, I understand the state is requesting publishing 114 line 6 through 115 line 6. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lewis, go ahead.
Your Honor, I think the discussion about what Ms. Richins is doing, about the children and the relationship with their father, all of that doesn't add any context to what Detective Maynard's statement is. I mean, I guess I'm not opposed to going through line 12 where she says, "Oh, I get that," but the rest of it it's also quite prejudicial.
Why is it prejudicial? I mean, it doesn't matter if it's prejudicial. I don't have any discretion here if it's required for.
I understand. But
So
I mean, the fact that he says you're on what your get out of jail free card looks like based on the information that, and then he says there's 3 little boys that don't have a dad. There's a family that doesn't have a brother. I mean, what does her response about the boys and Eric have anything to do with the fact that she now has a get out of jail free card if she gives them her information?
I understand the state's position to be this shows what her motivation, the complete version of her motivation rather than.
I can understand the state's rationale. It also gives again, while both motives are self-serving, to potentially help or assist bring peace and justice to the Richins family, while alleviating some of her guilt and atoning for her wrongdoing. It is self-serving, yes. We can agree that both things are self-serving, but it's considerably less self-serving than her get out of jail free card. And with the way that the defense really portrayed and characterized, Carmen's kind of motivations, I do think the state is right to bring in that there was an overriding sort of moral obligation that Carmen felt. Now, I think that, seeing her break down would actually be, I understand why the defense doesn't want it in because it's horrible for their client, but I do think that the state needs to get it in because there are always going to be those people that are going to question why Carmen did this and what the sort of weight between, doing right by Eric's family and then herself getting out of jail, what mixture of that was. And I think if we see genuine remorse from Carmen, it's going to look really bad for Kouri. Heather May, can you please explain this get out of jail free card? And is it that Carmen allegedly got fentanyl for Kouri? Yes. So Carmen was the one that we can prove, the state has proved, went and bought drugs. Now, the state hasn't made the case to me yet that these particular pills were tainted with fentanyl, but it has proved that Carmen did make illegal or illicit substances purchases for Kouri. Now, there have been allusions from the state, but no concrete evidence from the state yet that around that time in Utah, the sale of opiates had been infiltrated with fake or counterfeit fentanyl pills. So people were thinking that they were buying pain pills, and unfortunately, they were buying fentanyl, and there were a lot of overdoses at that time. So basically, Carmen was in drug court and facing some fairly serious felony charges as a person who had a prior record. Now, she was not doing well in drug court and could possibly or have potentially been facing some very long prison time. So, she was looking at possibly losing her drug court participation and being just sentenced to her crimes that she was trying to expunge off of her record by succeeding at drug court. And those crimes would have left her in prison for probably the rest of her life. So the police were offering her if she testified. So it is basically a plea deal. Now, she has not been released from drug court yet, so there is sort of Damocles up over top of her head. And thank you so much, Tammy. It's an interesting idea. So there are allegations that maybe maybe Kouri got these pills for Eric thinking they were in fact pain pills, but they were in fact fentanyl. Again, the state, to me, now I'll break it down for you. Do I think that Kouri's going to be found guilty based on where we sit right now on the trial? Yes, I think the jury will find her guilty. Has the state proven to me beyond a reasonable doubt that Kouri is the instrument that gave Eric the fentanyl? No. But do I think that it's likely that she will be found guilty, though the state hasn't specifically met its burden? Yes.
Just a motivation to serve her own interests. Is that about right, Mr. Bloodworth?
That is, Your Honor. And Detective Maynard couples the two in his statement. It's get out of jail free card looks like, based on the information, that there's 3 little boys that don't have a dad. He's coupled them.
I'm sorry, can you finish?
Yeah.
I don't know why just going through line 12 where Ms. Lauber says, oh, I get that. Why doesn't that complete that she gets that that's why it is because of this reason? Why do we have to go into the rest of the relationship with Eric and the kids and that Kouri's living her life while everybody else is suffering? I don't understand how that completes anything more than just ending with Ms. Lauber's statement at line 12, that she understands that's why it is because of the circumstances.
Mr. Bloodworth, go ahead, sir.
Your Honor, it completes Carmen Lauber's expression of her motivation to cooperate.
Okay. Having considered the arguments of counsel and looked at Carmen Lauber's statement on page 114, line 12, the court is persuaded
I don't see another motive unless you take that this was all going to start crumbling down. There's only so long that you can lie to everyone and tell them that you're a real estate mogul, before and foreclosures are happening everywhere, that people are going to notice that you are not the real estate mogul that you think you are. That and she knew that Eric wasn't going to support a dying business. From everything I've heard about Eric, he wasn't going to keep throwing, good money after bad. So she was not going to have this part of her identity that made her feel special or important. And I do think that the loss of that identity, the loss of her, importance, her ego, I think that if I look at it from that way, I can see why it would have been imperative for Kouri, um, to rationalize taking Eric's life before her whole stack of cards fell down. So I don't know how much of it was, planned, how much of it wasn't. I don't know that we'll ever know, but I do think that the thought of losing her identity, the one that she had crafted to, bolster herself from her severe feelings of inadequacy, the loss of that was more dangerous than, being in debt, to the point of making me cringe.
That under Rule 106, publishing of page 114, line 6 through page 115, line 6 is necessary to explain, qualify, and provide context for her response. All right. That brings us to pages 182 and 183, correct, counsel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, the statement that the state seeks to provide additional context, explanation, and qualification for is Ms. Lauber's statement on page 183, line 5. Can you guys just write it and I sign it? Correct, Mr. Bloodworth?
Correct, Your Honor.
And the state's position is that under Rule 106, we're required to go back to 182, line 12, and include through 183, line 14. Do I have your position correct?
You do, Your Honor. And that necessary context is that the detectives needed Carmen Lauber to put her verbal statements on paper and that detectives were not able to do it for her.
Actually, I'm fine with that. I think there was a typo in what we said in our response.
Okay. Very good. The court is. Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off, Ms. Lewis. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was just saying in terms of the lines we agreed to, I think that's just typed incorrectly. That's not a problem.
Okay. Under Rule 106, the state is permitted to publish page 182, line 12 through 183, line 14 from 8-58R. Anything else from 8-58R, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lewis?
No.
All right. That brings us to 8-62R, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. We go to page 12. Here, in response to a question from Detective Maynard, the goal is to convict Kouri for an aggravated murder. These parallel drug investigations, those aren't a priority. Ms. Lauber says, right. And the state asserts that completeness requires that we also publish page 11, line 20 through page 13, line 22, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. And the necessary context there is that Carmen Lauber is spooked by the federal grand jury investigation, and Detective Maynard is assuring her that that federal grand jury investigation is secondary to the murder investigation.
Ms. Lewis.
Your Honor, I really think that if we start at page 11, line 20, and go through 12, line 20, that it states enough to cover all of that without getting into the grand jury, which is a whole other can of worms.
Why can't we go to 13, line 7? It gets a little confusing after that, I'll grant you, but 13, line 7, I think, is an important closure on that issue of the potential for federal charges.
I'd like to take out the reference to the grand jury. What if we,
Help me understand, what is it you think is a problem with the grand jury? This is what they're talking about, is federal
Yeah,
charges.
I mean,
well, they are, but it's clear in here that she's saying federal charges are the next, that's more up the chain serious, like the highest extreme. So it's already in here that they're already saying that federal charges are more serious, and he's telling her not to worry about that without getting into the grand jury, which causes me concerns. It's I mean, that's something we've avoided talking about. It speculates that it's going to allow the jury to speculate about what that means if there's other charges. I think most people don't know what a grand jury is. They may think there's another jury that's made some kind of finding. I mean, we maybe could go through line 7 if we just take out we could even just take out on 13, starting at line 2, just take out that's where it's formalizing it with the grand jury.
Let's talk about mechanics for a second, Mr. Bloodworth. I understand, or I appreciate that these are many fewer pages of transcript than was under contemplation yesterday. Are we just going to show the transcript to the jury at this point, or have we cut the video down?
Your Honor, we've set the conditions where we can cut the video down. There's still a little bit of editing time, but not much.
Sure.
The state intends to publish by, as we've published other similar exhibits, playing the video with the transcript rolling beneath it.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, talk to me. Why in the state's view do we need to go beyond line 7 on page 13?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm actually okay if we go through line 10.
Okay. Line 10
That
on page
completes the
13.
thought.
That's agreeable, Your Honor.
All right. So, first, the court is persuaded that with respect to state's proposed exhibit 8-62R, publishing page 11, line 20 through page 13, line 10 is necessary under Rule 106 to provide additional context for Ms. Lauber's response to Detective Maynard's question as depicted on page 12, lines 2 through 6. The court is not persuaded that a stray reference to Carmen Lauber appearing before a grand jury will mislead or confuse the jury in any way about any consequences or any investigation regarding Kouri Richins. The defendant's request for redaction of that sentence is respectfully denied. Anything further on that, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Scott, do you need any of those numbers again?
No, Your Honor. I was following along and I have them down, and I can, provide a copy of the video as soon as I have them ready to defend, to have the process.
Perfect. I like that plan. Let me just write this one down. Mr. Bloodworth, that means the remainder of state's motion to admit redacted exhibits 8-57R through 8-63R is moot at the current time. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm actually shocked that we were able to get through these and came to a compromise.
Okay. Counsel, last evening I sent out notice of the court's decision denying defendant's motion for mistrial. I'll issue a written ruling providing the court's analysis in the due course, but I needed to make sure that you had notice of that decision. I also gave notice of the court's designing a remedy under Rule 16 of requiring the state to recall Ms. Lauber in its case in chief to make sure that defendant has an opportunity to cross-examine Ms. Lauber about the alleged violation of her drug court probation in November 2023. I know only 12 hours have transpired since that time, Mr. Bloodworth, but what is the state's expectation?
Your Honor, she will be here at 1 o'clock.
All right. Are we starting with her?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ooh,
Ms. Lewis, anything further?
okay.
I imagine that nobody will be discussing with her what she's coming back to testify regarding between.
Well, I told her she was still subject to the subpoena, that she was not released.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
sure all officers of the court will abide by the rules there.
And have a good
You'd be
lunchtime,
within your
Wolfram.
rights to ask her if she's talking to anybody
Sure.
in the meantime.
Sure.
I imagine the state will have some limited redirect of her upon putting her on the stand.
Yes, Your Honor. Maybe we can clarify just scope
Sure.
of cross. I think the record's clear in the state's papers that defense has already had an opportunity to examine her on this issue. I appreciate the prophylactic nature of the court's ruling.
Right.
I'm happy to protect the record. But as I understand it, the scope of defense's cross-examination of Ms. Lauber today is limited to impeachment based on the materials surrounding her supervision.
Yeah, even I think more specifically, the material received by the defense pursuant to the subpoena that allegedly revealed this potential violation of her drug court probation in November of 2023. That's the new information.
Okay, and as I understand, that new information is an unsigned affidavit, although substantively that affidavit is no different than the information provided pre-trial.
Yeah, that was a little unclear from the papers as to whether the subpoena response gave more detail than what was provided pre-trial. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear, this will come out in the court's oral ruling.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
court is not making any finding that the Summit County Attorney's Office intentionally withheld any information, but the knowledge of Detective Maynard is imputed to the state, and so we are where we are.
Yeah, and I appreciate all that. I think the only information in the subpoena return that was new was a printout of a link to a drug test result, the link which has long expired. So,
Was the unsigned declaration provided prior to trial?
Your Honor, it was not, but all the substance
I see.
in that unsigned declaration was provided prior to
Okay.
trial.
Well, to prevent any
Sure.
infirmity on appeal, my view is that the scope of this recross that the court is providing the defense an opportunity to do are the facts and circumstances related to any potential violation of Ms. Lauber's drug court terms and conditions in November of 2023.
Understand.
Ms. Lewis.
Just some clarification. Well, first, the only information we had before was that she apparently had drank alcohol. The information about the circumstances surrounding that is new. But the other thing, so I included in what the state sent us was the letter that Carmen Lauber sent to Judge Mabee, which I did have before, but I didn't question her about it. But now I would like to point out that what she says in that letter is not accurate.
What's the date of the letter?
February 15th of 2024, where she says that she's been in 100% full compliance. Well, now we know that she's not been in 100% full compliance. So
I don't know if we know that. We know that she was observed holding an alcoholic drink. We don't know if she ever consumed it. And so, I mean, I suppose if you want to ask her if she violated her condition of not possessing or purchasing alcohol, you can ask her that. But
Your Honor, I'm not sure that's,
now it says she was consuming it here.
well, that's an unsigned affidavit. We got to be careful. That's not evidence of anything. It's just words on a piece of paper.
Fair
You
point,
can ask
Judge.
her about it, but we can't admit that. Go ahead, Mr. Blood.
Your Honor, the letter to Judge Mabee, I believe, has been in discovery for years.
No, and Ms. Lewis is not suggesting otherwise. It's just she's not suggesting now she has, in her view, evidence that the statements made by Ms. Lauber in the letter are not true.
Okay.
And so she now has a reason to ask her about that.
Yeah, but
And then
she's also had that, and I believe that the state did send an email in plenty of time that had she looked at her email, she would have known that Carmen had messed up.
and we were provided also this, I guess it's a screenshot of texts between Ms. Lauber and Detective Maynard that we just got also for the first time that I didn't have. So I would like to ask her again about her communications and her supervision.
As long as you're within the dates of those text messages. Unless they had those as well. I don't know.
I mean,
Your Honor, they don't, but she testified to exactly what the text messages show. So I don't know if there's any impeachment there.
And is that true?
She testified that, off of my memory,
Yeah.
she testified that her check-ins with Detective Maynard amounted to one of them texting Lauber, the other responding with Maynard, which is precisely what the texts show. So in fact, I think the text messages are 100% entirely consistent with Carmen Lauber's testimony.
Ms. Lewis, let me look at the text with you for a moment. My apologies.
that's fine. I would need to look at that portion of the testimony again, because maybe my recollection is incorrect, but I know she also testified about a lot of communications with Detective Maynard. I mean, I think it would be appropriate.
So essentially what happened is the defense alleges that the state failed to turn over information that Carmen Lauber was seen with an alcoholic beverage and therefore may not have been in full compliance with her probation and drug court rules within, I think, the last month or so. So I do believe that they are going to let her come back and have the defense cross-examine her about those allegations. But the defense is wanting to now cross-examine her on more things based on this new knowledge. And the judge is having to be very careful because this can't go beyond a very limited scope. or the state is basically calling her back in to testify about the alcoholic beverage, and the defense is wanting to go into various different topics to, again, damage Carmen's credibility.
To ask her if these communications were in text, because the texts don't include that. And I don't know why we have just a screenshot of a week of text. I mean, this is incomplete.
Well, but Ms. Lauber's not going to know why that's what you received from the subpoena response. You can ask Detective Maynard about that if you want to call him.
About why we only have these dates. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. Ms. Lauber won't know why Detective Maynard or the Summit County Sheriff's Office did or didn't produce additional records.
I wasn't going to ask her that. I was talking about if this is a fair representation of all of her texts. I mean, all
of her texts for Saturday, February 14 through Monday, February 16.
Well, I think I could ask her if this was a representation of her text throughout her supervision, if this is what they did.
There's no. What's the foundation for the fact that they only texted for 3 days in February of 2024?
No, what I'm saying is, I think I can ask her, show her this and say, are these 3 days a representation? Is this how you always communicated with him? Not just these 3 days. Does this represent how you always communicated with him?
I'll give you a limited latitude there.
Okay. And then,
I want to make sure you heard the word limited when I said that.
And then I need to look at exactly what she said about that before, but I may have some other questions regarding how they communicated other than these texts.
Okay. Take a look at it. Let me know if you want to readdress this prior to 1 p.m.
All right. Let me just make sure that's everything.
Now, to be clear, my view is that because we're in the state's case in chief and we're recalling one of the state's witnesses, Mr. Bloodworth, if you want on direct to direct examine Ms. Lauber regarding the November 2023 events, if any, you're permitted to do so.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it.
Okay. Let me pause there. Anything else on the record at this time, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Am I correct that the state's intention, as we sit here at the moment, is to call Ms. Lauber and Detective O'Driscoll today?
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any intention, as you sit here at the moment, to call any other witnesses in the state's case in chief?
No, sir.
Okay.
Okay, I guess we're not going to be hearing from Bryce.
Detective O'Driscoll done today, but certainly will sometime tomorrow. Does the defense, if it plans to put on witnesses, that's your prerogative to choose whether or not to do so, have a couple or more in the wings for tomorrow?
We do.
Okay, very good. Anything else on the record right now, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Ms.
Definitely want to need to take a break after they rest to do our Rule 17 motion.
Fine.
And we also, while we're talking about scheduling, we've got plenty of time here. We would like to build in a little bit of time to have a conversation with our client upon their arresting. There are some decisions the client will need to make. And we may need about 30 minutes to do that.
No problem.
Ooh, is Kouri going to testify?
Anything else on the record at this time, Ms. Nestor?
No, sir.
All right, folks, we will be in recess. Why don't we plan counsel to be back at 12:45, just to make sure we handle any issues that may come up between now and 1 p.m. All right, we'll be in recess until 12:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys. So here is my conundrum. I will probably end this stream and then put it back on for 1:45 their time. Now I'm trying to do what's 1:45 their time. Crap. So it's 11:44 here. But what time is it there? Oh crap. I am crap at this. This is why I hate daylight savings time. Oh, 11:44 a.m. Eastern time here. Crap. What time should I start this? Okay, so if it's 3:45 Eastern time, thank you. All right, I will start this at 3:45 Eastern time, which actually works out because I do have to get the young ferals. So I will set up that stream and port you guys all to it because uh, I'm over here having an existential crisis because I can't figure out time, which, I mean, it's me. But I guess you guys can help me out with something I'm supposed to do today, but I don't want to. But let me work on this thumbnail real quick and make it afternoon session and set up the stream. Alrighty, share, download. Do. Time is a construct. And they want me to do math in addition to time? This is not going to happen. I don't know if you are aware, but this is not going to happen. So, yes, we will be back at 3:45. It will be interesting to see what all we get from Carmen and if our thoughts about her have changed. I think that she came off incredibly credible. Still a scotch of not wanting to take full responsibility, but for the most part, I think she came off as believable and um and genuine. So it'll be interesting to see the defense try to again, you know, chip at that when I don't know that they did a good job with the first cross that they had. Now, it looks like, according to the judge and the state, that okay, so it'll be 3:45 is when the next stream is starting. On and I love that I have the hardest time getting all of this working together. Baker makes it look easy. I mean, it's probably yes, I am Eastern time. And yeah, I just I don't know how damaging her testimony is. This so the Kouri Richins case is happening at Utah, or in Utah. So they will be starting again at their time 1:40 or 1:45, and we will be starting at 3:45 because that's when it will. I will have been able to pick up the boys, and then we can zip through any breaks and go there. So that is the plan for the rest of the day. We will get more of this. It will be interesting to see what Detective O'Driscoll brings in. I can say that I have not been impressed with the law enforcement in this case. So it's going to take a pretty good witness to tie up all these very loose threads because I think that the defense does have a really good point that at about or so we will be starting at 3:45 just because I have to pick up the kiddos. So we will have a little bit of we can watch it quickly-ish and speed through the break. But that is when we will be starting again. What I do wonder is if Detective O'Driscoll is going to make the state's case look more competent. Um, because at this moment, objectively, it looks like the state was gift wrapped an incredibly competent investigation from the private investigator and didn't have to, put the pieces together. It doesn't look like they had to do a whole lot of legwork themselves. So I kind of want to see what legwork went into this. I'd like very much to know, you know, if we're ever going to hear about the tweezer and the plastic that they found in one of Kouri's jackets. And I know that, the walk the dog letter is okay, That's fine. I just, today, the way things work out, I will, not be coming back until 3:45 just because I have to pick up the boys. Yeah, and, that way, we are looking at there are some storms popping up, so and I will be able to go with my daughter to get her passport, so this actually works, so, yes, I will be back at 3:45. Sorry, I was answering my daughter. I was thinking about texting my daughter and answering you guys. Well, whenever y'all need to go get your passport done, I will be there. What are you going to do? I have no idea. I am going to be, honestly trying to work on laundry. I am, work on laundry and making, making sure that I've got well, all of this stuff done. I have been slacking on laundry. So unfortunately, this is upsetting, but I do have to leave you guys to attend to house chores, which I mean, honestly, since I've got a break, what me really wants to do is sit down and play cross stitch. Now, I now have to go help my daughter with the passport, which is a good thing, and do laundry because I need to be functional. Not my best not my best thing, but there you go. You guys, I will be back at 3:45. I will have caught the feral boys. I will probably be drinking one of my fun sodas, because all of these fronts going here and there, I may have purchased a slightly strong soda to, drink this afternoon. Oh, that's mean. No, I don't want oh, good lord. No. No folding laundry on stream. That sounds terrible. I think I might get thrown in jail for that. I will see you guys this afternoon, and we will speed through breaks and probably watch on 1.25, so be ready for a speed run because it's gonna be awesome. I will see you guys later. Have a great day, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, but have a sassy mouth and carry a can of bitch fire, and also, remember, to pay attention to the weather if you're in any of the areas that have a chance for severe storms today, because it is, unseasonably warm and there is a lot of moisture in the air. So we are, bound and determined to have some storms here, there, and everywhere. I will see you guys in a little bit. Bye.